Today is Tuesday, August 6th. We'll tell you about a wild day on Wall Street, what caused it, and what's expected to happen next. Also, Vice President Harris is expected to announce her new running mate today. Reports say it's down to 2 candidates. Plus, we'll update you on the damage done by Hurricane Debby and where it's headed now, a judge's ruling that's expected to have ripple effects across the internet, and Miss USA's hope of moving past a year of controversy with a historic new winner. Those stories and more news to know next. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in about 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Lacey Evans, filling in for Erica Mandy today. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Wall Street is working to recover from a major meltdown. Stocks yesterday suffered their biggest drop in nearly 2 years. All 3 major indexes fell more than 2.5%. Really, the sell-off started last week after Friday's U.S. jobs report showed slower hiring, with unemployment rising to its highest level in nearly 2 years. With that, it seems investors worried the world's largest economy could be slowing and that the Federal Reserve may have waited too long to cut interest rates. That said, there are other market strategists who say this is not time to panic and that recession fears are overblown. Either way, in times of market turmoil, there's often an urge to sell, and yesterday was no different. Though a lot of investors had a hard time doing so. Brokerages like Charles Schwab, Fidelity, TD Ameritrade, and Vanguard all reported outages yesterday. It seems their issues are now resolved. A hurricane that slammed into Florida this week has now been downgraded to a tropical storm, but it could still do a lot of damage. When Hurricane Debby came ashore, it brought with it torrential rain, flooding, high winds, and tornadoes. Sadly, 4 people died in Florida and hundreds had to be rescued. The storm caused widespread power outages, and thousands of flights were canceled or delayed. Now, Debby is a slow-moving tropical storm that could still bring catastrophic flooding as it moves into other parts of the southeast. Up to 30 inches of rain are possible on the coasts of South Carolina and Georgia, so meteorologists are asking people to pay close attention to local forecasts and be prepared to evacuate if necessary. The situation in the Middle East is only getting more tense, now with American troops getting attacked. At least 5 U.S. personnel were hurt in a suspected rocket attack at an Iraqi airbase, the same base that's been targeted at least twice in the past 3 weeks. The attack reportedly resembled previous ones carried out by Iran-backed armed groups. But for now, it's not clear if this attack was linked to Iran's recent threats to retaliate for the killings of militant group leaders. Still, the U.S. and Israel say it marked a dangerous escalation. Speaking of the Middle East, we have an update on Hamas's October 7th attack that set off the war in Gaza. The United Nations officially closed its investigation into the main UN relief agency in Gaza and found 4 staff members may have been involved in the attack on Israel. All 9 will now be fired. 13,000 others are still working in Gaza, and the UN says they will continue a humanitarian mission. Israel still thinks hundreds of them could be working with terror groups, though the UN says there's no evidence to back up those claims. To be continued. Today, Vice President Kamala Harris is all set to start campaigning with her new running mate. The thing is, though, she still hasn't announced who that running mate is. Harris spent the last few days interviewing finalists, and now Reuters and other news outlets cite sources who say she'll pick either Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota or Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania. Last night, Harris said she was still weighing the decision, even though today kicks off a 5-day tour of battleground states that are likely to decide the election. And both Harris and her running mate will hold rallies in each location along the tour. By the way, former President Trump's running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, will be right behind them. His campaign schedule looks almost exactly the same, as Republicans are still hoping to secure many of the same battleground states. A new week began with more medals for Team USA. For example, the U.S. took the gold medal in women's surfing. Several track and field stars also ended up on the podium. And American gymnast Simone Biles ended her run at the Paris Olympics with a silver medal for her floor routine. Other American teams and athletes advanced to the next round of their competitions. At this point, Team USA is still atop the leaderboard with the most Olympic medals. And there are still a few more days left to go. American athletes will be competing again today in track and field, boxing, skateboarding, basketball, volleyball, and more. More news is still coming up, but first, here's your main host, Erica Mandy, with a word from our sponsor.
Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs and gives you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, workout, sleep, and even stress management. All you have to do is breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning, and you'll know what's going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fats or carbs. Then, Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on your measurements. You can also breathe into it before and after workouts and meals, so you know exactly what's going on in your body in real time. A lot of people may not really understand their metabolism, but it's actually your body's engine. It's how your body turns the food you eat into fuel that keeps you going. I've been using Lumen recently and find it fun to use, first of all, but more importantly, it's super informative. It's really helping me make healthier decisions personalized to my body. So if you want to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me/newsworthy to get 15% off your Lumen. That's Lumen, LUMEN.me/newsworthy for 15% off your purchase. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode.
Now, back to the news. Today's another big election day for lawmakers in the U.S. Congress. 4 states are holding their non-presidential primaries today: Michigan, Kansas, Missouri, and Washington. One of the races being closely watched is in Missouri, where a member of the so-called squad of far-left Democrats is hoping to hold on to her seat. Congresswoman Cori Bush was the first member of Congress to call for a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas and has continued to criticize Israel over its actions in Gaza. Well, now pro-Israel groups are pouring millions of dollars into a campaign to unseat her. It's actually similar to another effort that seemed to have worked to defeat another squad member, Congressman Jamal Bowman. It ended up becoming the most expensive House primary in U.S. history, but could be surpassed by this race in Missouri. Meanwhile, Michigan is the only battleground state voting today. It's expected to have one of the most important Senate races this fall. So today, both Democrats and Republicans will choose who they want to see on that ballot. Then there's Washington, where Congressman Dan Newhouse is fighting to hold on to his seat. He's one of the 10 Republicans who voted to impeach former President Trump a few years ago, and only 2 of them were able to secure another term in 2022, including Newhouse. But now he faces even more GOP opposition, so we'll see if he's able to outlast it this time. Of course, those are just a few of the key races we're watching today, and several more state primaries are happening in the weeks to come. A handful of states are now leaning on billionaire Elon Musk to fix his new AI chatbot. The top election officials from Michigan, Minnesota, New Mexico, Pennsylvania, and Washington say X's Grok has produced fake information about state ballot deadlines. For now, Grok is only available to people who subscribe to a premium version of X. But the misinformation was apparently shared across multiple social media platforms and reached millions of people. So the states now say Grok needs to be fixed. So when it's asked about U.S. elections, it sends people to canivote.org. That nonpartisan site is run by the National Association of Secretaries of State and can help people find out how, when, and where they can vote. So far, no comment from Musk or anyone else at X. Google has lost a massive antitrust case in a ruling that could reshape how millions of Americans get information online. A federal judge ruled that Google acted illegally to hold a monopoly in online search. This all dates back to 2020, when the U.S. Justice Department and several states sued Google. They accused the company of dominating the search business, in part by paying other companies to have Google automatically handle search queries on their smartphones and web browsers. So for a long time now, that's made Google the easiest and quickest search platform to access, which has also helped fuel Google's massive online ad business. And a case over that ad business is actually scheduled to go to trial next month. But first, a judge is considering what Google should have to do to improve competition. And that process could involve more court hearings over the next several months. In the meantime, Google is planning to appeal this latest ruling. One spokesperson says it doesn't make sense that Google shouldn't be allowed to make its search engine easily available. So it could end up in the Supreme Court on appeal. YouTube's biggest star is facing backlash over his new reality show before it even comes out. Mr. Beast is being accused of trying to make the competition series like a literal Hunger Games. Contestants say they were deprived of food and medicine while they competed for a $5 million grand prize. One of them even told the New York Times they saw other competitors being carried out on stretchers. In response, Mr. Beast's team says some of the problems on set came down to unexpected logistical and communications issues, as well as extreme weather. The team says it's learning from the first experience and will be bringing back hundreds of contestants for round 2 soon. Mr. Beast, whose real name is Jimmy Donaldson, is known for making videos that often include outlandish challenges and huge cash prizes. He actually faced a separate controversy last week when some inappropriate comments from early in his career resurfaced. Donaldson says he has since learned to be more aware and more sensitive to the power of language and is now focused on making a positive impact around the world. There's a new Miss USA taking over in what could be a new chapter for a pageant that's been wrapped up in controversy. Michigan's Alma Cooper was crowned, becoming the third person to hold the title this year. You'll remember 2023's winner resigned, along with Miss Teen USA. Their families say they were both mistreated by the Miss USA organization, though the beauty queen who took over for Miss USA says her experience was a good one. This week, the last couple of Miss USAs congratulated the new winner and promised to support her. That new winner, Alma Cooper, is a U.S. Army officer, data scientist, and master's student at Stanford University. Now, she says she's encouraging others to follow their ambitions. That's it for the main news today, but now it's time for Trivia Tuesday, when we ask a different trivia question every week. But first, Erica is back to tell you about our sponsor, Wild Grain.
There's nothing quite like the smell of fresh baked bread coming out of the oven. I love having that smell as guests come over to our house, or even just to get my family coming downstairs asking what deliciousness is happening in the kitchen. It's possible with none of the time and work typically involved, thanks to Wild Grain. That's because Wild Grain is the first ever bake from frozen subscription box for sourdough breads, fresh pastas, and artisanal pastries. Every item bakes from frozen in 25 minutes or less, no thawing required. As soon as I started pulling items out of our Wild Grain box, my husband started oohing and aahing with excitement. I'm talking slow fermented olive oil ciabatta, large flaky croissants, fresh fettuccine, giant chocolate chunk cookies, and more. Your Wild Grain box is fully customizable, so you can choose any combination of breads, pastas, and pastries you want. Also, Wild Grain just launched a brand new plant-based box featuring a wide selection of plant-based pastries, breads, and hand-cut pastas. Best of all, for a limited time, you can get $30 off the first box, plus free croissants in every box when you go to wildgrain.com/newsworthy to start your subscription. You heard me, free croissants in every box and $30 off your first box when you go to wildgrain.com/newsworthy. That's wildgrain.com/newsworthy, or you can use our promo code newsworthy at checkout.
Okay, now back to Trivia Tuesday. Today's trivia question is, what primary color do babies see first? You can play along with us in our weekly roundup email that comes out each Friday. As for last week's trivia question, what food was once used as an eraser? The answer is bread. Yep, until the 1770s, people would erase errors with decrusted, moistened, balled-up bread. So it was apparently pretty common for writers to be seen carrying around stale baguettes with papers and other gear. And they were almost just as effective as modern erasers, at least when it came to clearing off graphite smudges from parchment. So how did the modern eraser come about? Well, legend has it, it was all by accident when a man reached for breadcrumbs but picked up a piece of rubber by mistake and was surprised to find out it worked. Now, erasers are made in all kinds of different shapes, sizes, and colors, and they're made of all kinds of materials like rubber, vinyl, or plastic. Thanks for joining me the last couple of days. Erica will be back tomorrow with more news you need to know. Thanks again for listening. Have a great day.